Brought to you by Penguin.
A Primate's Memoir by Robert Sapolsky. Read by Mark Chamberlain.
Part 1. The Adolescent Years. When I First Joined the Troop. 1. The Baboons. The Generations of Israel. I joined the baboon troop during my 21st year. I had never planned to become a Savannah baboon when I grew up. Instead, I had always assumed I would become a mountain gorilla. As a child in New York, I endlessly begged and cajoled my mother into taking me to the Museum of Natural History, where I would spend hours looking at the African dioramas, wishing to live in one. Racing effortlessly across the grasslands as a zebra certainly had its appeal, and on some occasions I could conceive of overcoming my childhood endomorphism and would aspire to giraffehood. During one period, I became enthused with the collectivist utopian rants of my elderly communist relatives and decided that I would someday grow up to be a social insect. A worker ant, of course. I made the miscalculation of putting this scheme into an elementary school writing assignment about my plan for life, resulting in a worried note from the teacher to my mother. Yet whenever I wandered the Africa halls in the museum, I would invariably return to the mountain gorilla diorama. Something primal had clicked the first time I stood in front of it. My grandfathers had died long before I was born. They were mythically distant enough that I would not be able to pick either out in a picture. Amid this grandfatherly vacuum, I decided that a real-life version of the massive, sheltering silverback male gorilla stuffed in the glass case would be a good substitute. A mountainous African rainforest amid a group of gorillas began to seem like the greatest refuge imaginable. By age 12, I was writing fan letters to primatologists. By 14, I was reading textbooks on the subject. Throughout high school, I finagled jobs in a primate lab at a medical school, and finally, sojourning to Mecca itself, volunteered in the primate wing of the museum. I even forced the chairman of my high school language department to find me a self-paced course in Swahili in preparation for the field work I planned to do in Africa. Eventually, I went off to college to study with one of the deans of primatology. Everything seemed to be falling into place. But in college, some of my research interests shifted, and I became focused on scientific questions that could not be answered with gorillas. I would need to study a species that lived out in the open in the grasslands, with a different type of social organization, a species that was not endangered. Savannah baboons, who had struck no particular chord in me before, became the logical species to study. You make compromises in life. Not every kid can grow up to become president, or a baseball star, or a mountain gorilla. So I made plans to join the baboon troop. I joined the troop in the last year of the reign of Solomon. In those days, the other central members of the troop were Leah, Devorah, Aaron, Isaac, Naomi, and Rachel. I didn't plan beforehand to give the baboons Old Testament names. It just happened. A new adult male, leaving the troop he grew up in, would transfer into the troop, and during the few weeks when he'd vacillate about joining permanently, I would hesitate about giving him a name. I'd just refer to him in my notes as the new adult transfer, or NAT, or Nat, or by the time he decided to stay forever, Nathaniel. Adam was first known as ATM, for Adult Transfer Male. The small kid who was first abbreviated as the SML kid then turned into Samuel on me. At that point, I just gave up and started handing out the prophets and matriarchs and judges left and right. I would still occasionally stick with a purely descriptive name, Gums or Limp, for example. And I was way too insecure in my science to publish technical papers using these names. Everyone got a number then. But the rest of the time, I wallowed.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?